Hi class, welcome back. Today we're going to be working on our next prototype, which is a form of Japanese stab binding, the Kangxi. There are many versions of the Japanese stab binding, but this one is, I think, really beautiful. This is a version that I did in one of my bookbinding classes beforehand. Just, you can see it kind of holds the spine in place, but it obviously does not open all the way. This is another version we'll talk about later on, but that one's just a more simplified version. Okay, and then I did another sample again today. So we're gonna go step by step through this process. The first thing I wanna show you how to do, you have in your kit all of these very long sheets. There should be 16 long sheets that I cut for you. You're gonna need all of those. One is going to be for your guide for punching your holes. You're also going to need to cut down yourself 2 sheets from your origami paper that are to size of your internal sheets, which I believe are, it's 4 3/4 by 8.5 inches. So just measure that exactly. You're going to want to cut 2 sheets to size, okay? And that's going to be for your front and back of your book, all going together. The other thing that you should have with you is there's 2 clamps, purple clamps that I put in your kit. You're going to need those for clamping your paper. An owl, we talked about this before. If you don't have an owl with you, you can also use a maybe a nail with, if it's put into a cork, or you can use the thick beading needle. You have a few of them, and put that into the cork, but you want to make sure that it's glued in there so it's tight. Or a needle tool for ceramics will work as well. You're also going to need some kind of, I have a little small crafting hammer, but any little hammer will do, just to give some pressure when you go ahead and stab the paper through the holes. You'll also need your thread that I've put in your kit. You have it pre-waxed, so you don't need to worry about that. I've got my wax, but you don't need that. A pencil will be good, a mechanical pencil, your ruler. Also, if you remember too, again, this little spongy pad, that's really going to be great for poking the holes. Some scissors, and that should be it. And your needle, you'll need one for the sewing as well. So if you're using one for the owl, make sure you have the other one available. The thing with these is that they break a little bit easier, so a nail might be better for the owl. Okay, so with all of that, if you get all that set up, we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is make our guide. So this is a guide that I'm going to use for punching my holes. I've done it at the left-hand margin here, and I've set up a little configuration with math to show you how to poke your holes. So there's different ways that you can go about this when you vary this book size, but for today we're just going to be following a 1-inch margin here. I think you'll see with this book I did it at 3/4, and actually this one is at 1/2 inch. So you can vary it depending upon how much width you want for your actual spine. But for this one, since it's very long, I think it looks nicer to do something at 1 inch. So that's what we'll be doing today. So the first thing you want to do, you'll see here, is that I've drawn a 1-inch line. I'm going to show you again on a separate one, just to kind of start you through the process. So just making 2 small tick marks. So I have that to measure up against, right? And I'm going to make a 1-inch margin line, lining those up, okay? So that's the first thing I want to do. Then I'm wanting to mark, now this is, because of the length of this is 4 3/4, it's not going to be evenly distributed for all 5 spaces in between. We've got 4 holes to punch here and 5 spaces. So what I did first is I added a 3/4 inch hole to either side. So I'm just going to make a little mark right here, and I'm also going to do another 3/4 inch tick mark right there. Okay, so you've got one on this side, one on this side at 3/4 inch. Then I also did 1 1/8 inch here and here. Okay, so I'm going to just measure right from that tick mark, the 3/4 one, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do 1 1/8. And then I'll do the same exact thing again on the other side here. Okay, so now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 areas for poking holes. Now we also, with this variation with the Kangxi, there's also this really kind of pretty design here on the corners. So you want to do one more additional hole on either corner. What I like to do for that is I go in with my ruler and I go from this tick mark on the edge to the corner and just draw a line there. And then the middle point for this is 5/8. Okay, so 5/8 is otherwise going to be 10/16. Okay, so if you're having any troubles, you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10/16 or 5/8. That's your middle point there. Okay, and I'm also going to do another line on this side. And then again. Okay, so I've got those two as well. So these are where all my holes go. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my guide and I'm going to have all of my sheets of paper together with my back sheet and my front sheet together. And I'm going to place all of them together, making sure that they're really flush, okay, and lined up very, very well. You should, as long as everything's kind of been cut evenly, they should line up really good. Then you're going to take these purple clamps. I'm going to clamp on this side, making sure that's all lined up. And then also clamp it on the other side, just like that. Okay. And then with the, you could actually put these facing down so that it lays a little bit flatter for you. Then with your little mat and your owl, you're going to take your owl, and this is where the Japanese stab binding is literally a stab. So you can take your owl, put it over one of the tick marks where you have made a mark, and with a hammer or some sort of weight, you're going to just make sure that that gets all the way down through to the back side of your paper. I'm just going to do one more. Okay, and I'm going to repeat that for every mark that I've made. Also in my corners. Okay, so now I have all of the holes poked. I can get rid of this. So then you'll want to unclamp this and remove your guide. You can keep this guide to know for this particular size how many holes you will need and where to place those. And then you're going to want to carefully, without moving it too much, go ahead and clamp this back together, because then we're going to get into the sewing part. I'm making sure those are all placed together well. And you can actually do that if you need. Okay, so the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cut some thread. The thread should be around 6 lengths of the spine. So I'm going to do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's always good to have a little extra thread than not enough. And for my thread, I need to wax it. Yours is already pre-waxed. And then go ahead and thread that through. So now we are going to get into the sewing. For the sake of the visual, I ended up taking off this cover sheet and putting a yellow one on here so that you can actually see the sewing much better. It's this actually camouflages it a little bit because it's darker. So I'm just going to show you step by step here how we get started. So first off, after your needle is threaded and you have a little bit of a tail on there, we're going to go ahead and we're going to enter through the book. You're going to want to try and get right through the middle, and this hole right here, the for me it's the second from the right. Okay, I'm going to lift this book page up kind of to the middle. You can count or you can just kind of see your way through, and I'm going to take my needle and pull it through the book and up. Okay, and what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to leave a little bit of a tail right here. Okay, you can go ahead and slide that in the other direction if you want. That's going to be where we make a knot at the end. Okay, and then I'm going to be taking this needle and I'm going to be wrapping it around. So under the underside here, in through that same hole. Okay, and back through. It's going to loop around and make sure it's obviously in the right direction. And you want to get it kind of nice and snug. You don't have to pull too tight yet. Okay, so that's the first part. And then we're going to go to the left, down and through. Okay, just like this. And now we're going to come and wrap it up around and go back through that same hole in another loop. So I'm going to go back around through like this. Okay, and make that kind of snug. And then we're going to take our needle from the back side and go up through this left hole here. And if all of this is clamped, it should actually work fairly easy. And then I'm going to go wrap this around and go again in a loop. So underneath and through that same hole again. So I'm coming through the underside here. And that's creating another loop. Okay, like this. Now you can get kind of snug with your thread. Okay, tighten a little bit. Then I'm going to want to take and I'm going to loop it in this direction. So I'm going to take the string and I'm going to go over and under and back through that same hole again. Okay, like this. Make that snug. And then we're going to get into the corner part here. So you're going to take this thread and go through this hole. Like this. And then we're going to come up and over back through this hole on this corner edge. Tighten that. That will make your kind of little arrow piece. And then we're going to want to wrap it around and go through again this side. Like that. Okay. And now you're going to want to come back through this hole from the bottom. So I'm going to go underneath. I'm coming back through that hole. Just like that. Remember to make it tight. Don't pull too hard, but just nice and snug. Then we're going to go down through this hole again. So this is the second from the left. Okay, starting to complete it. And then we're going to come up through this one. So this, we're going to come up through the second of the right. Okay, like so. And now we're going to come over to our right hole, go down and through, like that. Okay, we're going to come up and over, so we're going to loop again like this is done. So down and through. Get that loop nice and snug. And then we want to wrap it around this way, so we're going to come up through the side and back through. Make that nice and tight. Okay. And now we're going to come up through this middle hole of the corner like this. Okay. And then we're going to wrap around the opposite, going underneath and back through. Okay, and do the same thing again on this other side. Okay, there starts our arrow. Then we're going to take this and go back towards our right hole there. Okay, just like that. And now the last thing that we want to do to complete this, at this point you can unclamp. This is so that we can make our knot in the inside. So I unclamp this, I've got my needle, I'm going to come up through this hole, but now I'm going to open up my book and see where my thread is. There it is, it's right here. So I'm going to open up this to this page, and I'm going to come through the back side of that hole, but only to where that thread is. Okay, and once you get that in there, you can release your needle, and now you're going to be doing a square knot. So you'll knot it in one direction, okay, and then you're going to flip it and knot it in the opposite direction. And now it's nice and snug, and the threads are hidden inside, and you can simply clip those. They don't need to be too short, but they'll lay nice and flat, and then they're hidden inside. And now you have your Kangxi Japanese Stab Binding. So, hope you enjoyed the process. See you next time.